They stole his first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out and out lies that were really serious, and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration do it.
How anybody can look at that and say that there wasn't aggressive violations of the law. What they basically did is they would take something that supported a Hillary Clinton campaign talking point and they would overemphasize it and exaggerate it. They took anything that actually contradicted that narrative and they buried it deep. And through that, they actually laundered Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points through the American.
The idea that Hillary Clinton was destined to become president starts to fall apart under sharp criticism from Megyn Kelly and Vance. Megyn points out what she sees as the confidence, sense of entitlement, and constant excuses that shaped Hillary's rise, while Vance compares her track record to a startup that spent big but couldn't deliver results. Looking back at her time in the Senate and the tough loss in 2016, they argue that the reality is much simpler. In their view, it wasn't that Hillary lost something she was owed, it's that her political image didn't hold up under pressure.
Remember, we've been talking about the documents that showed Loretta Lynch allegedly saying she would make sure it didn't go too far. So Hillary Clinton twice protected, according to these documents, for her utter corruption, her criminal corruption.
But if you look at what Tulsi and Kash Patel have revealed in the last couple of weeks, I don't know how anybody can look at that and say that there wasn't aggressive violations of the law. What they basically did is they defrauded the American people in order to take Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign talking points and turn them into intelligence by defrauding the American people, defrauding the intelligence agencies, lying about.
For years, Hillary Clinton's career carried a sense of inevitability. She was presented as the one meant to break barriers and help shape America's future. But inevitability doesn't mean much without real results, and her record raised questions. Megyn Kelly cuts through that polished image, pointing to what she sees as an overhyped politician whose strength was less about leadership and more about weathering controversy. Each time Hillary stepped into the spotlight, her wins were often overshadowed by lingering doubts, public mistrust, and major campaign mistakes that critics say serve as lessons in what not to do.
Okay, well, first of all, she didn't say he was an illegitimate.
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
Okay. I mean, she conceded the election. Whether you're interpreting her disappointment at losing it as the same thing as Trump not conceding it, I don't know that's where you're getting it from. But again, it's a tremendous false equivalency. You could ask Hillary Clinton right now who won that election. She will tell you.
Before we go further, if you're enjoying this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more deep dives like this. Vance doesn't hold back either, delivering criticism far sharper than the usual polite takes Hillary Clinton has faced. He describes her as the kind of politician who assumes voters won't notice what's behind the speeches. Vance points to her connections with Wall Street donors and questions around money linked to the Clinton Foundation, all while she presented herself as fighting for everyday people. He also highlights the contrast between her message and the way her campaigns came across, arguing it left even parts of her base feeling distant. In his view, Hillary becomes an example of how power without authenticity can end up feeling empty.
Try to silence him and shut him up. And then consider, just yesterday, one of the chief surrogates of Kamala Harris's campaign is Hillary Clinton. And you know what Hillary Clinton said yesterday? She said that misinformation should be met with criminal penalties. That we ought to throw people in jail and silence them if they say something that Hillary Clinton disagrees with.
In the eye, it was such a jaw dropper. Watch. Hillary Clinton, of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
First of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was an illegitimate.
What makes Megyn Kelly's criticism stand out is how direct and detailed it is. She walks through Hillary Clinton's record step by step, starting with a Senate career she describes as largely unremarkable, with few standout achievements. Then she turns to Hillary's time as Secretary of State, pointing to moments that drew heavy scrutiny: the situation in Libya, the fallout from the Benghazi attack, and the controversy over her private email server all became major talking points. Megyn's overall argument is that being close to power isn't the same as being effective in it, suggesting that the challenges of the role expose deeper concerns about readiness.
Talk politics for a minute. Hillary Clinton is back doing a late night tour. She spoke with Jimmy Fallon and she had some thoughts on this boiling down to Trump versus Biden again.
What do you say to voters who are upset that those are the two choices?
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
Yeah, love that.
Right? And
J.D. Vance then points to what he sees as Hillary Clinton's most difficult moment: her loss to Donald Trump. For him, it's not just the loss itself, but the way it happened. Hillary had strong funding, major endorsements, and the backing of the Democratic Party, yet she still fell short in an election many believed she would win. Vance also brings up the tension from the 2016 primaries involving Bernie Sanders, arguing it left her entering the general election without real momentum. In his view, Hillary's campaign resembled a venture that had every advantage but couldn't deliver, weighed down by its own missteps. He believes it wasn't something taken from her, but something that slipped away.
And here's the thing. If you're willing, my friends, if you are willing to throw a person in jail because you disagree with what they say, then you're going to be willing to put a bullet in their head too. So the Democrats, I call on every leader in this country, not just tone down the rhetoric, but tone down the censorship. Let's have a debate with one another. That's what Americans do. Stop trying to silence people.
Megyn Kelly criticizes what she sees as Hillary Clinton's sense of entitlement, arguing that Hillary acted as if the presidency was hers by default rather than something to earn, which she says turned voters off because Americans don't like being told who to support. She also points to a campaign built on inevitability instead of inspiration, with messaging that often felt stiff, scripted, and disconnected from ordinary people. While J.D. Vance adds that Hillary's basket of deplorables comment became a major self-inflicted mistake, insulting voters she still needed to win over and damaging trust in a way he describes as political misjudgment on a large scale.
Just for the record, and our audience knows this and you guys, but just for the record, let's play SOT 10.
I do think that he knows that he's an illegitimate president. I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president. He knows that there were a bunch of different reasons why the election turned out the way it did. And as I've been telling candidates who have come to see me, you can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you. Joe and Kamala can win by 3 million votes and still lose. Take it.
J.D. Vance argues that this moment of arrogance reflects why many voters turned away from Hillary Clinton, saying it showed a lack of respect and a disconnect from the people she needed to win over, and that the remark wasn't just a mistake but a revealing glimpse of her mindset that ultimately showed up at a ballot box. Megyn Kelly then criticizes what she sees as Hillary's tendency to rewrite the story of her defeat, pointing to her continued focus on external factors like sexism, Russia, and James Comey rather than personal responsibility, and compares it to someone refusing to step away from the spotlight while blaming everyone else when the reception fades, arguing that instead of accountability, she has consistently leaned on explanations and deflections.
It's kind of like one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart, and really cares about people, and one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Okay, interesting.
I don't understand why this is even a hard choice.
Get over yourself. You don't matter. Do what's right for the global citizenry, which is clearly to elect the compassionate one with the heart. The guy who skipped Officer Diller's funeral, that fallen cop, got shot by somebody who'd been under arrest for 21.
Megyn Kelly returns to criticize what she calls the broader Clinton brand, arguing that by 2016, it had shifted from political strength to a symbol of controversy, scandal fatigue, and public distrust surrounding Hillary Clinton. J.D. Vance adds that Hillary's attempt to run as a reform-minded candidate clashed with long-standing baggage, including past scandals, foreign donation concerns, and FBI scrutiny, which he says weakened her message. He compares the Clinton name to a once dominant company that expanded too aggressively and ultimately collapsed under its own weight, leaving voters disappointed. Megyn broadens the point, arguing that Hillary's campaign became a cautionary tale about entitlement in politics and a reminder that voters are not obligated to accept establishment choices, framing her candidacy as an example of what happens when confidence outpaces reality.
Then, that was at the Vital Voices Global Partnership Awards, whatever that is. Then, look at this.
Oh.
She put out this mug. We'll put it on the screen. You can see it here on my notes.
Yeah,
Have you seen this?
I haven't seen it. I see a little
it's
one
a mug
on your
that's
notes.
got like an outline of her, and she's sipping a coffee, and it reads, "Turns out she was right about everything."
My God.
She tweeted it out, writing, or on Insta, "We recently had some new merch made based on a phrase I hear a lot."
Megyn Kelly delivers her strongest criticism by arguing that Hillary Clinton's legacy is not about barriers broken, but about opportunities lost, saying she had every advantage imaginable: money, media support, powerful connections, and decades in politics, yet still failed to secure the presidency, even after losing twice to opponents she had dismissed as unqualified. J.D. Vance adds that her story should be viewed less as a case of sexism or bad luck, and more as an example of how power without authenticity can fall apart under pressure, framing the Clinton model as a cautionary tale rather than a blueprint for leadership, and arguing that no matter how often she revisits the past, the outcome remains the same. In his view, she is not destiny denied, but destiny missed.
Very different ballgame today than it was even 4 years ago, never mind 8 or 10 years ago when she was doing all this. And back to Hillary, you know, the whole, she has a hat she's tweeted herself out wearing, but her emails. She's tried to turn it into this ridiculous joke, like, oh, but the moon landing, like you nutcases who are still railing about this made up scandal, this thing that, you know, you've used to try to unfairly tar me. She did need to distract from that email scandal, which was around her neck like an albatross. Trust me, we were covering it every night on the couch.
The blunt takeaway, as framed by Megyn Kelly and J.D. Vance, is that Hillary Clinton will never be remembered as America's first female president, but instead as a heavily hyped candidate who ultimately fell short of expectations. No matter how much debate continues around her legacy, they suggest she still tries to stay in the spotlight through interviews and media appearances, as if she can reshape how people view her story. Megyn describes it like a sequel nobody asked for, saying the message feels repetitive and out of touch, while Vance adds that her continued presence keeps reopening old political wounds, reminding voters of 2016, the loss, and what he sees as a campaign that turned high expectations into a major setback.
Hillary Clinton.
Speaking of evil.
Yeah, exactly. Who amazingly, has been out there celebrating the Trump conviction. Now, we played this the other day, but I'll show it to the audience if you missed it. SOT 3. Here she was after he was convicted at a speech.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anything going on today?
Megyn Kelly goes beyond claims of arrogance and questions the idea that Hillary Clinton was truly a champion for women, arguing that if she represented a real movement, she would have inspired broad public support rather than mostly energizing consultants and major donors, while many everyday women saw a longtime politician leading on identity messaging without enough substance behind it. J.D. Vance adds that Hillary repeatedly shifted blame after the election, pointing to factors like James Comey, social media, and foreign interference instead of personal responsibility. And he compares her response to a struggling CEO writing a memoir that blames the market, customers, and competitors, rather than acknowledging deeper failures in the campaign itself.
Clearly violated the law with that homebrew server that had been accessed by foreign agents. She compromised national intelligence information. She did things she would never have allowed anybody at the State Department to do under her. And that leaves me back to Schellenberger here. This is page 4 of his report. He says, he writes as follows: the Russian reports again, that the Dutch spied on, that we got our hands on, also claimed, and listen to this, I mean, you probably already know this stuff, Glenn, but claimed that Attorney General Loretta Lynch, okay, this is back in 16, people, remember, Obama's president, Loretta Lynch is his Attorney General, and her DOJ/FBI are investigating the Hillary Clinton email scandal. And also now we learn simultaneously working with the Hillary Clinton campaign to
Megyn Kelly closes by arguing that the way Hillary Clinton handles responsibility sets a wider example for politics, saying that if losing candidates can keep rewriting events and shifting blame, then accountability starts to disappear. And she suggests this approach turns failure into something constantly reframed as unfairness, even as voters grow more skeptical and resistant to it. While J.D. Vance sums it up more bluntly by saying Hillary's career should be viewed as a case study in political hubris, where vast resources, experience, and opportunity were not enough to prevent collapse. In his view, the broader lesson goes beyond politics, pointing to a simple idea that entitlement without real competence often leads to failure.